Welcome to a very different episode of the Badass Leaders Podcast. If you've been with us for a while, you know this is normally where I sit down with incredible guests and dig into their stories. But today it's just you and me, because this week marks something I wasn't sure if I'd ever live to see. You see, I turned 50 years old today. And it's also the 5-year anniversary of the day I escaped from being kidnapped. So we're gonna call it half a century alive, 5 years free. Those two milestones have me feeling a lot of things, including gratitude, grit, and digging into the truth. And I didn't want to scroll past this moment like it's any other week. So for the first time on this podcast, I'm sharing pieces of my story, the lessons I've learned, the truths I've had to face, and the ways surviving changed how I lead and how I live. This isn't a highlight reel, and it's also not a trauma dump. So instead, it's a bit of an honest conversation about resilience, about what leadership looks like when life knocks you flat, and about choosing to build something better from the pieces. So if you're interested in my story and you want to learn more, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode. Comment to let me know if this resonates with you and if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Are you ready? So join me, Gill Nelms, on today's special episode of the Badass Leaders Podcast. Whether you're here because you've been part of my journey or you're walking through your own fight to survive, I'm glad you made it, and buckle up. Okay, what are we going to talk about? Well, 50 years, let's see some key chapters and some turning points. You know, when you hit a milestone birthday, you start to look back at the chapters that you've got here, the turning points, the moments that changed everything. And the biggest turning point for me came at age 29. You see, I was a single mom with a 2-year-old with special needs, and I decided to go back to school. Not just anywhere, but Georgia Tech. So people thought I was crazy. Honestly, I might have thought I was crazy as well. I never admitted it at the point because I was just trying to be tough. But I actually was really scared to death. And I knew if I wanted to build a different life for us, that I had to take that shot. So I jumped in without thinking much more about it. You see, Georgia Tech wasn't just a school. It was really a proving ground for me. I worked my tail off. I will just say I worked my butt off. People who know me know that's not possible, but I worked my tail off and graduated as one of the top female engineering students in my class. You know, that degree opened doors I didn't even know it existed. It changed my life forever. Literally the best career, growth move of my life. So thanks to it, I have built a career helping to drive medical devices to market, starting with Medtronic and then Emory, and finally joining my first startup, Florence Healthcare, a clinical research software company that's still making an impact today. The leap to join Florence, which I also thought was a crazy idea, taught me that entrepreneurship is equal parts courage and chaos. At Florence, I grew to become COO. In fact, the sapphire ring on my finger is the gift to myself when I first got into the C-suite. So whenever people say they love it, I love it too, because it was just a moment for me to congratulate myself for all of my hard work. And after that, I then stepped into the roles of COO at RenovoRx and then Atos Imaging, proving to myself that I could pivot industries, lead teams, and drive innovation in completely new arenas. Now, as the managing director of Biolocity at Georgia Tech and Emory, I'm helping others drive their innovation to patients who need it. I absolutely love this. I also get the opportunity with the AGN Group to help individuals, teams, and companies find their inner badass. Okay, you ready? Speaking of badass, that crazy decision to go to Georgia Tech at 29, that was the first time in my life I truly felt badass. I also, some of you may have heard me say there's a fine line between dumbass and badass. Okay, that was definitely the fine line. But now that I look back, yeah, that was badass. It was a badass moment. So all of you who are thinking it's too late to start something new, just remember that. That could be that moment for you. You see, for me, I grew up with an abusive mother and endured a childhood marked by physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, as well as neglect. And even without loving parents as role models, I knew one thing for certain: I wanted to be a mother. After years of infertility treatment, I was overjoyed when I finally became pregnant. I could not wait to pour all the love I received into my child. But that joy turned to heartbreak when my son, Ashton Chandler Bailey, was stillborn. My world shattered. Now, many of you know, in time, I was blessed with my daughter, Rihanna. I call her my sidekick for the past 22 years, my absolutely ride or die girl. She is love, wit, and kindness personified. Being her mother has been the greatest gift of my life. So you see, my education and career success aren't my only story. It's also been shaped by the moments you don't put on LinkedIn, the abuse, heartbreaks, struggles, and yes, the event 5 years ago that nearly ended my life. Okay, let's dig into that. 5 years ago, I survived a kidnapping. How did that happen? Okay, so a colleague encouraged me, hey, sign up for this dating app. He knew I would love it as it asked lots of questions, and then it matched you based on responses. So the engineering person mindset of me was like, oh, this is great. I love it. And yes, I also answered over 500 questions. No judgment. So you can imagine my surprise when someone matched at 99%. Wow, I was super excited. And we went out a few times that week, and yes, we were intimate. But I quickly saw red flags, and my gut told me something was off. So I told him we weren't a good fit. He, however, had other plans. He'd already figured out my walk schedule with my young dog, Steele, and things that I didn't know about him, including the fact that he had been dishonorably discharged from the Coast Guard, where he worked in cybersecurity, and he used those skills against me, understanding what my routine was and his ability for cybersecurity. So without my knowledge, he had recorded our intimacy. And one night when I was out walking my dog, he cornered me and blackmailed me to go with him, or he would send the video to my company's board members and Georgia Tech board members. Okay, I'm going to sit in this moment for a minute because I still remember how it felt standing out in the middle of Atlanta with no one around, seeing that on his phone. You see, he had hacked into my calendar, and he even had a drafted email ready to send with the names of those colleagues already in the to line. In that moment, literally my life flashed before my eyes. I couldn't imagine watching everything I'd built be destroyed with one click of send. So, terrified, I went with him. He then held me in my home for 5 days hostage. We're not going to go into those deals of those 5 days. They were really hard and traumatizing. During those days, my emotions swung wildly. Sometimes I was resigned to the idea that my life was completely over. I didn't care. I was never going to see the light of day. Other times, I was determined to fight. And one of those times was August 20th, 2020. On my 45th birthday, I made the decision. I didn't care if the world saw a sex tape of me. I was going to survive. And when the chance came, I literally ran for my life. Okay, so sidebar here. Over the years, I've told this story a little differently. I've said that he was in prison when people asked, and that wasn't true. Why did I lie? Because the truth is complicated, and I was afraid people wouldn't believe me or they would judge me. You see, when I went to the Special Victims Unit and spent time with them, the officers and my doctors explained the hard reality. With the evidence we had, it would come down to my word against his. And in a jury trial, there was a 50-50 chance he'd walk free. And if he was found innocent, he could never be tried again. And if he were found guilty, I would have to relive the nightmare every time he came up for parole, giving a victim statement again and again. So at that time, and remembering back, I thought that was horrible. Like, I couldn't tell this story over and over. Now, 5 years later, I told the story so many times, I realized I could have. And I think it's just a moment of, as time passes and we grow through healing and through trauma, then we can share stories we never thought we would. But back then, it seemed horrible. So on their advice, the case was sealed. And if any other claims ever arise, it can be reopened and I can testify. Now, was that the right decision? I don't know. But it was a decision I made to keep surviving. So you see, escaping was only the beginning. The physical danger ended, but the emotional aftermath was its own battlefield. Like learning how to breathe all over again. Literally all over again. I questioned everything. My safety, my instincts, my ability to trust. Healing meant rebuilding from the inside out. And honestly, it's still ongoing. Along the way, I dug deeper into my passions. I launched this podcast. Thank you for joining me. Expanded my work as a leadership strategist and started speaking openly about resilience and mental health. The last 5 years have felt like an entirely different lifetime compared to the first 45. Before, I was fueled by ambition and the grind to get ahead. And really, I was fueled by trying to prove I was good enough and be accepted, especially from family members where abuse came who were still living and involved in my life. I was really fueled to, hey, see that I'm actually a good human. That's what fueled me. However, after escaping the kidnapping, when everything changed, now what I'm doing is I'm powered by purpose. I lead with both strategy and empathy. I speak my truth without apology. And I don't just fight for my life anymore. I live it. Frankly, I'm striving to leave a legacy. And I really hope if you're collaborating with me, you're also doing the same. Okay, I want to dig into 5 lessons that I've learned from 5 years of being free. Are you ready? Let's do it. Okay. When I think about the last 5 years, some lessons rise above the rest. Truths I didn't learn in my head, but in my bones. Number 1, there is a difference between surviving and thriving. You see, when I first escaped, I was breathing, but that was about it. I stayed in survival mode, hyper aware, exhausted, and trying to get through just the next 24 hours. While survival kept me alive, it did not give me a life. It was literally not a life worth living. I suffered debilitating nightmares. I was terrified to go and do anything. I really didn't even want to see people that I thought may judge me for the situation I was at. And I really wanted to keep it a secret. I wanted no one to know. Now, the real turning point came when I realized I had to step out of that mode. So in March of 2021, after Florence, when we closed our Series C, I was able to take time away from my career. And along with the amazing Cuba, my service dog for several years, who passed away entirely too soon, I spent 6 months in residential treatment, starting the steps toward healing, not just from the kidnapping, but from the first 17 years of my life. As well, the loss of my son and the pain from many broken relationships. You know, in the past few months, I've learned to say yes to things that scared me before, and I'm so grateful for this. And some of those are getting back on my road bike. So I recently had my first road bike ride by myself through the city. It was amazing. Also traveling again and letting myself dream past what tomorrow is. Are you ready for number 2? Let's do it. So number 2, time doesn't always heal, but it will change. Okay, you know, people say time heals all wounds or time heals all things. Okay, I don't know. My stance is that is freaking bullshit. Time gives you space, but it does not magically stitch things together. What it really does is reshape you, how you see yourself, how you see others, and what you allow in your life. You see, some scars fade, others don't, but you learn to live in your new skin. Healing, I've learned, is something you do. It's absolutely not something the clock hands do for you. Number 3, joy has to be chosen on purpose. You see, after trauma, joy can feel really dangerous. For example, if you laugh and relax, you're lowering your guard and inviting disaster. I'm still learning that joy isn't naive, it's defiant. Now, what I aim to do is treat joy like a discipline. I hunt for it in the little things, like my daughter's laugh. Actually, also the fact that my daughter is the most amazing at gifting me small things, like cooking me meals. Well, I mean, come on, she heats them up in microwave, but she surprises me delivering meals to me. She delivers a lot, like gifts to me. She takes out the trash. She does all the small little things that I would ever want. And I find so much joy in that. And I find joy in being able to tell her and thank her for all those small things. You see, I never received any of that gratitude from my family. And also, when I was married more than one time, I never gave that to my spouse. And so right now, I find a lot of joy in giving that to my daughter. Okay, what else? I love an amazing audiobook. I'm almost always listening to audiobooks and podcasts. And I also find joy in just the quiet of a walk in the park. Just looking around, breathing in the air, seeing the beauty of the trees, seeing the sunlight, enjoying just being out there in the world. You know, I don't wait right now for joy to show up. I've decided I'm going to build it into my life. Okay, number 4, the hard one is rebuilding trust in myself and others. Trauma shakes your instincts. I have spent a lifetime second-guessing everything. My choices, my guts, my ability to judge people. So rebuilding trust in myself has been slow, literally brick by brick. And it is still a work in progress. And actually, to trust others, that is hard. Also work in progress. But I've started by letting a few close friends see the unfiltered me. The days I was struggling, the nights I needed someone there to keep me safe, and the times I didn't have my Wonder Woman bands on. You see, I've learned that trust isn't about being naive. It's about giving people the chance to show they can be safe. And I'm going to pause here and say that especially right now, as I approach my 50th birthday, this is really keen. I've had quite a few incidences happen, including those of you might know, the shooting recently in Atlanta for the CDC and the CVS, and I was in lockdown at Emory. I think I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But that happening, also the passing of my 101-year-old grandmother near my birthday, and my father passed last year near my birthday, and I escaped my kidnapping near my birthday. My birthday is really starting to feel treacherous. But these things, I can say these things to other individuals that love me, and they don't judge if I want to stay in bed for a few days, if I am exhausted, if I'm not perfect, if I don't say the right things. They just love me for who I am. And I think all of us, we can find those people in our lives, and when we're trying to rebuild from anything, surround ourselves from those individuals. They will be the greatest gifts we ever have. Okay, now number 5 is freedom. You know what? Freedom is not a finish line. It's really practice. So escaping wasn't the end of the work for me, as you can tell. It was only the beginning. For a long time, I carried that captivity with me. The fear, hypervigilance, the shrinking away from passions that suddenly felt too risky. Learning freedom has meant something different. It's choosing to speak my truth, to return to the places I swore I'd never set foot in again. Every step forward reminds me I am no longer a hostage. I can choose to make this step forward, or I can choose not to. But it is my choice. That doesn't mean I don't stumble. As I mentioned a minute ago, just recently during the shooting of the CDC CVS in Atlanta, I found myself locked in my office in the Emory lockdown, listening to sirens and helicopters overhead. And sitting there, the fear came rushing back because, trust me, no previous hostage victim wants to receive text messages and alerts that they need to, run, hide, fight. No one wants to receive that. But I did. And you know what happened? The fear came rushing back. But this time I knew I wasn't alone. I reached out to my support network that helps me when I struggle, and I'm still working through that. So as I navigate this path, I'm also giving myself some grace. Obviously, because I'm sharing this with you today. Because I want to say it out loud. And I also want to encourage you, if you're struggling with something, sometimes I hear people and they look at me and they say, wow, you're so brave and badass. Like they have all this. And I just want to say really quickly is that we need to remember what Be Brave, Be Badass is all about. It's not about being tough beyond all means. It's not about shutting yourself down. It's not about creating a world where everyone thinks you're perfect and you never have fears, you never fail. It's none of those things. Be Brave, Be Badass is that your badass is the best you can be on that day. So frankly, since a couple of recent events, the best I could be was curling up in bed with my really amazing pillows from Miraval Resort and sheets and watching Netflix. That was my badass for that day. And you might say, well, how is that being brave? Well, look, an overachiever like me, to give myself grace to sit and do that, that is being brave to be my badass for that day. So I want you to know that anyone you see and you look at them and say, wow, they have a great life, or they've been so successful or whatnot, understand they have their challenging times too. And I am included in that. And some days my Be Brave, Be Badass, or I'm going to go out and conquer the world and crush things. And other times my Be Brave, Be Badass might mean that I am going to drink coffee in bed, watch Netflix, and cuddle up in a place that I feel safe. Both of those are completely acceptable. So I'm giving myself some grace. I'm also rescheduling events I don't think I can give my best to. Frankly, earlier today, I had a podcast interview and I think they deserve to receive my best and I deserve the same. So I rescheduled it. It also means catching up on rest and just sitting with the struggle. You see, freedom for me is still a practice, and I'm still practicing every single day. So what are some of the keys? Well, these 5 years have taught me that survival is the spark, but living is the fire. That joy, trust, and freedom are choices you keep making every single day. And that's what makes this milestone, 5 years free, mean everything to me. If you listened all the way through, well, first off, thank you. And secondly, thank you. Finally, thank you for giving me the space to share this part of my story and for showing up for your own. If this resonates with you, share it with someone who might need it. So comment, subscribe, review. It all matters because it helps these conversations reach the people who need them most. Here's to the next chapter, whatever it holds. Half a century alive, 5 years free, and still just getting started. So today, you go out there, and you know what? You welcome the ability to be your own brave and badass. Share your stories in the comments. I definitely want to hear them. And share this with someone you love. Thanks for joining in. Take care.